Hi friends, it's Carly and I'm back again with another review. So at the end of my last two Roadblocks video, I asked everyone what they would like to see next in the Joe series, Scarlet or Duke. I did not get any specific responses to that on that video, but I have in the past, so I'm going to be doing Scarlet on Monday and Duke on Wednesday. In the meantime though, I received a package from Big Bad Toy Store of a pre-order that I ordered and did not expect to get so soon, and am very excited about. So I hope that you guys don't mind if I interrupt the Joe content just for a minute to take a closer look at the Marvel Legends Rogue and Pyro 2-pack. So I ordered these figures, it's only been a few weeks. It was back at Fan First Tuesday, and I don't know why I didn't expect to get them so soon. Other friends of mine did, so I don't think there was anything special in me getting them so soon, but I just wasn't expecting them. So I'm really excited to take a look at these figures. Before we get started on them, I think it's interesting to note that this series is the first in a line of toys that is released to commemorate the 2000 release of the X-Men movie. So it's a little bit surprising that we're not getting cinematic versions of these characters because both of them were in the first film, but at the same time these are very idyllic and iconic versions of these characters. We have Legacy Rogue and first appearance Uncanny X-Men Pyro from issue 141, Days of Future Past. So I think that what we're getting here are iconic versions of the movie characters. There are other versions or other figures and other sets and series coming up in this line that are the movie versions. So we will get a Sir Patrick Stewart, we'll get a Hugh Jackman, but for the first ones they gave us these really iconic looks, and I'm going to tell you the reasons why I like that, why I'm not upset about it at all. Again, you guys, I pre-ordered these from Big Bad Toy Store. They are currently in stock. So if you're interested in this set, if you didn't pre-order it, you can go to Big Bad Toy Store right now and order them and have them in just a couple of days. There's a link in the description. So I'm going to start off right away talking about these figures because you know when there's two, this is going to be a long one. And I'm going to start with Rogue because she is the one I am most excited to have. So as I said, this is Legacy Rogue, and I'm really stoked about this costume. The only other costume I would really like to have is the other Marvel Legends version with the green and yellow catsuit and the long flowing hair, but I have sort of just gotten to a point collecting and sort of filling in my collection as I've gotten more serious about it over the last year, that I'm just not going to pay scalpers anymore. I feel like they're really hurting this collector sphere. It's hurting the industry as a whole. It's changing the way that toys are released and produced and where exclusives are turning up, and I just don't like it. I'm just not going to participate in those markets anymore. So the $150 eBay Rogue is never going to be a part of my collection. So I was super, super excited to get my hands on this Rogue, and I could not be happier with having her. So we will take a look first of all at the head sculpt. This figure came with two heads and two sets of hands. I really like this one because it's sort of a smirking kind of know-all Rogue. She has this beautiful long flowing ponytail that actually works really well when you turn her head. You can sort of throw it over her shoulder and it still looks really great. So the hair doesn't really hinder anything here, even though it's really, really long. But she just has this sort of eyebrow up smirk. You can really hear her saying Sugah, and it's just awesome. I just really love the way this facial sculpt looks. The other one is a fighting face where she is clearly not messing around. Again, the long flowing ponytail. This time her hair's a little wild. I love what they did with these sculpts though, and the paintwork. Her eyes are this glittering, vibrant emerald green, just so beautiful. So starting with the sculpt, I'm really happy with the way this figure looks. I love that they went with this sort of older, more mature version. Like if we're looking at the movie from 2000, Rogue is sort of a lost kid trying to figure things out, and I like that story. I love those movies. I know that there are a lot of fans who don't. I was not as invested in the comics when they came out, so I loved those movies, and they actually brought me into the comics. Now I start to see things that sort of bug me about the movies and about changes that they made for why, who knows. But those movies are the reason that I'm a fan. So I do not hate anything about them. But for me, this version of Rogue is the one that just has my heart. And I really like her being older and, you know, more mature. So one of the most interesting things about Rogue that I always notice is that, first of all, I think universally everybody would agree that she's one of the most beloved, sexy characters in the Marvel Universe. And what makes that so interesting is that by necessity, she needs to stay covered up because her power is a power that releases its damage and energy via touch. She can take the life force of humans who don't have mutant powers through her touch, and she can steal mutants' powers and use them against them through her touch. So she has to keep that skin covered, and she still remains one of the most, like I said, sexy characters in the Marvel Universe. So here is Rogue's legacy costume. And I love the nod to 60s comics, like sort of the start of the comic vibe. There's a real Gwen Stacy vibe going here with this little mini A-line dress and low-slung belt. I love that there are a lot of X emblems on it. I think that just really sort of, that branding is just really cool, and it's minimalist, even though there's a lot of it, which is kind of an interesting dichotomy, but it really works. And the simple green and white. Green, obviously, I feel like Rogue has to have green. And I do love some of the green and yellow costumes. Most of them are green and yellow, but I like the green and white a lot too. I think it's a little bit more subtle. You still get the superhero vibe, but you also get that she is a woman and a really powerful woman too. So I love this costume. Her scarf right here, which is vinyl, does come off if you pop off her head. I don't know why you would want to do that though, because it looks fantastic, but that is a removable accessory. She came with 2 sets of hands. I put one of each on just for the purpose of saving time. She's got this casting hand here and a fist hand. So we can see that. So the accessories pack is great on this. I think 2 well-sculpted, great-looking heads and 2 sets of hands is perfect for Rogue. And when we're going through the points of articulation, I want to say I have to be 100% honest and let you guys know that I do not think that Hasbro did anything new with this figure. I don't think we're looking at a new body mold. Points of articulation that I have complained about missing in the past have not been added. That all said, I am probably going to be a little bit more generous with this figure than I normally am, just because I love her so much. So I just want to put out there, I have bias. This is an opinion channel anyway, but I want you guys to know that I am pretty biased to this figure, and I'm not probably going to be as critical about some of the things I have in the past, even though she is the same physically as, say, Shikla that we just looked at. But I just love her so much that I'm just not mad at it this time. So her head has a great full range of motion here. Her ponytail, as I showed before, can be made a part of her pose, so there's really no obstruction there. Arms are the thing that I've complained a lot about. Little skinny arms that are missing points of articulation that we see in larger figures. And I've always felt like it wasn't a thing about a male figure and a female figure, but the size, the frame size. So I have really been an advocate for standardizing all of the points of articulation that will work on every frame size, from tiny, small, mid, large, and bulky, so that we always know what we'll get articulation-wise. That hasn't happened. I am still an advocate for that. All of that said, I love this Rogue, and she works fine. So we have turning here in the shoulder. We're missing the turn in the bicep, as always. And in the elbow, we've got a 360-degree turn that allows for some variation in poses. So we can do something like turning her arm like this and turning the fist to get like sort of a flexing pose. You just kind of have to get a little bit more inventive with the female characters, with what you want to see and how you're going to achieve it. It's all going to come here from the elbow and from the manipulation of the hand. But with the forward and backward motion in the wrist and in the elbow that we're able to turn in a variety of different ways, you can get some really good poses out of this figure overall. So yes, it's the same as it has always been. I have had complaints in the past on Rogue. It doesn't make me mad because I'm happy with this figure. Take that for what you will. She does not have a working turning waist, which is always a complaint and issue with me, and she has not much of a bow at all here. She does have a little bit more of a bend backwards, And then, as usual, when you start to turn that torso, you run into an issue with the depth being so much slimmer in the chest than it is in the waist, so it starts to hitch up pretty quickly. You can't get a huge range of turns without getting to the point where you're gonna start rubbing paint, so I typically just don't use that turn, but it's the same as it always was, and it functions. I have to be honest also about the flaws that I got in my figure. I did get a little flaw here under her right arm. It's just a little, I don't know, just a little lump there, a little marring on the plastic, and it seems as if they didn't coat the right side of my figure. You can see the light hitting her chest here and how this side is mattified. It wasn't noticeable. I was super excited. I started working on this video. I've had to go through a few different takes. I didn't notice it at all. And then I was coming back to redo some things and I was like, oh man. So mine does have a few flaws. I'm not gonna send her back though, because you know, from a distance on the shelf and as far as playability goes, she still looks fantastic. So her little vinyl skirt does not impede her lateral lift in her legs. Again, these Marvel Legends have not been going up as high as the Joes. I'm not really as happy with them, but this is standard. This is how they've all been, so she's not lacking there as far as Marvel Legends goes. She's got a 360-degree turn in her thigh. We've got a really nice bend in the knee. It could go farther, to be honest, but again, I love this figure, so I'm not worried about it, which is so silly, but it's just true. And the feet work great the way that they always should. For me, the same price and everything to get this Rogue, I am 100% happy with it. She's beautiful. The sculpt is fantastic. I love the smirking look. I literally put her in my pocket and took her to work with me yesterday. It's a satisfying figure. It makes me really happy. Do I feel that it commemorates the film? In a really roundabout way. I feel like this is a very idyllic version of Rogue, and I feel like that is the spirit of the character that they try to capture in the writing of the movie. Obviously, it's different. Obviously, there's a lot that they changed and altered, but I do feel like this is the original material that they tried to draw from when they created that character, and one way or another, it's a fantastic figure. So whatever it is meant to commemorate, whatever they made it for, I'm just really happy to have it, and I think that you guys will like it if you're a Rogue fan or just a Marvel Legends fan. You want this girl in your collection. So next up is Pyro, and Pyro was a member of the Evil Brotherhood of Mutants. So we see him in Days of Future Past. He premiered in 1981. In Uncanny X-Men 141, there is an epic battle. Okay, so I read issues 141 and 142 just to sort of get a feel for Pyro. And he does what you expect. You know, he controls fire. He uses this pack to create larger bursts of flames, to direct them. But he can also turn them into creatures, like beasts, fire beasts that attack and do his bidding, which is really cool and interesting to see in the book. So this is the costume of that first appearance back in 1981, and it is very villainy. So I appreciate that they did that because I don't feel that Pyro got enough finesse in the movies. I don't feel they gave him enough love. He really was a kind of take it or leave it character. I watched the movie the other day and he was in it, but I don't know. I just feel like this is so dynamic, so I appreciate that this is the Pyro that we got in this set. I am still really excited for the possibility, though, of those cinematic versions of the characters, and I would love to see that. I would love an all-black everything 2000 movie actor facial sculpt set, and let's cross our fingers for that because it seems like things like that are on the table now, especially with the Deadpool cinematic line that just came out. Anyway, back to Pyro. So he looks fantastic. This is exactly what he looks like in that book, and if you go to Marvel Unlimited right now, you guys can read issues 141 and 142, and it is essentially just an epic battle. It is such good comic book reading. I highly recommend it. So our Pyro comes with the facial sculpt, or two heads. The serious head that you saw here, sort of menacing, and then this really evil kind of grin head, which is the one I think I will probably end up using on him. It's just a little bit more evil. And since he is a member of the evil Brotherhood of Mutants, I think that makes sense. So he comes with this overlay. This is vinyl. This is exactly what the costume looks like though. So I have to say that Hasbro nailed the design. This pack, which is really well thought out actually, because I was wondering how this might hinder with these tubings his movement, but they actually just go ahead and pull out here. So you can get whatever type of pose you want out of the figure and then just pop it back in like that. And you won't get all twisted up. You won't have any problems or issues. So I really appreciate that sort of thoughtfulness that allows you to pose the character however you want and still get great use of his accessories. His second accessory is a flame that fits over his fist like this. So I'm gonna try to show how his hand fits in here. You literally just slide it on like a mitten. Like this. There we go. And then he can have two sort of fire fists that he uses. There we go. We've got him on now. So I really like this accessory, and the great thing about it is that I have tried it, it will clamp onto any mid-sized fist. So you can use this accessory on all kinds of characters. You could use it on an Iron Man, you could probably use it on Sunspot, or Sunfire, I'm sorry. So these are really cool accessories, and they look really cool. I feel like the coloring is caught perfectly. This book was written in 1981, so there's a very comic booky vibe to the character designs in the book, and this is exactly what he looked like, and I love having this version of Pyro to add to my shelf. So let's go ahead and look at his articulate points. His head is just fine. Everything works the way that you would expect. This bib does hinder some of the motion in his head though. So when you're looking at turning right and left, you're gonna wanna probably decide if you wanna turn him too dramatically to go ahead and pop the head off and move it, or you can remove the bib. It actually has a peg and will slide right over, I think. Yeah. So it will slide right over his head. There is a peg here in his back. If you're going to manipulate the head too far to the right or left, I think you're gonna wanna remove this covering. I keep calling it a bib, which is not what it is, but his sort of, this overlay, this pack overlay, which pegs into his back, because there is a lot of paint work on his face with his mask, and I just don't think it would take very much of brushing up against that for us to start seeing damage to the paint. So that is my thought on that. Let's go ahead and just pop the rest of his pack off now that you've seen it. You can pop the hands off, and these are the 3 pieces of his pack, just the 2 pipes and the pack itself, and these go over his wrists. So it's really a manipulatable piece. Then you can still even easier get great use out of his fire fists, and they look even more impressive without all of that extra in the way. So even though he has a very limited pack of accessories, they're very functional and can create a lot of different looks from this figure. So he's got a great range of motion in his head. If you take off that top portion, there's a lot of customizable aspects of this character too. If you wanted to turn him into somebody else, he's pretty generic without his red piece. He has got that mid-frame, fully flexible body. So this is a little bit noticeable next to Rogue, who has the standard, female points of articulation. We have the full butterfly joints that go all the way back and pretty far forward. We've got the turn in the armpit here, the shoulder, the bicep. We've got great double jointed elbows. We've got the turn in the wrist. He just comes with fist hands, so they go forward. and back. Pretty good range of motion there. This is that same body mold I think that we did get on Sunfire. So it's that very slight frame. It's a little loose, not too bad. The paintwork on these hits a little bit differently for me. It feels like they did a little bit more to get a nice matte complete finish. There is a little bit of, so obviously they used yellow plastic and then they painted orange and red over it. So of course there's bound to be a little bit of paint problems here and there. It looks like on mine, maybe the stencil wasn't down completely. I've got a little bit of red up here and a missed yellow spot here. So I would caution, there's also some fading back here. I would caution a little bit against using these boot turns. You know I don't like them anyway, so I won't be using them, but I don't think it'll take much for those to start creating rub that you can see because the yellow paint underneath will start to shine through. That said, I mean, that would happen on any figure. He's got a great 360-degree turn in the waist, 360 in the thighs, great double jointed knees. These knees are far better than Rogue's. You can see how much higher they go. Of course, the old calf turn and the excellent movement in his ankle. So Pyro is quite versatile. While Rogue is exactly Rogue and perfect, looks the way that she should, comes with what she should. I wish she had more articulate points, but I'm not sad about anything that she did come with. Pyro is very versatile and has some really cool looking head sculpts. I think it might be kind of interesting to try one of his heads on the Sunfire body and just see what kind of interesting looks you can create. I really enjoy these facial sculpts. And you know, when we're looking at such vibrant colors, it just catches the eye. It's just nice looking superhero slash villain kind of looks. He does have a really great deal of paintwork and detail and dry brushing done to his hair. You can see all those high and low lights that I was kind of surprised we didn't get with Rogue. Hers is pretty flat, but then with the two-tone hair, I think maybe that might be part of the reason why. I would like to have seen a little bit more done with Rogue's hair, to be honest. But when all is said and done, this Pyro is a really great looking figure. Let's try on his other head real quick and just sort of get like a last look at some of his accessories and how he looks. So he's got this peg. You can see it sticking down there, and it will go right into his back. And that will anchor this piece where it is meant to sit so that you're not getting any weird, you don't have to figure out how to make it sit the way that it's supposed to. It just clips right into his back. So he looks really, really good. I love this head. So there's Pyro without all the piping and everything extra. I love this figure. It, as I said, is still a little bit befuddling as to why we got these two as the first that are popping out, but they are in the movie and they are the characters that inspired the story, and I'm not mad at it. I think these two figures are fantastic. I cannot wait to put them on my shelves. It's really fun to have a hero and a villain together and have such a dichotomy between the two. And this is something I don't normally do, but with this one I really want to show off the box too, because this is a new box design and I really, really love it. I love that they've lightened things up finally. The black box is starting to get to me. The shape of it is weird. I like the clean lines of this new box. And the way, you know, we saw a version of this with Cable. So the Cable box is a version of this box. And I love the X logo, how bright the colors are, the way that they use the a slightly different font for the characters, and the artwork on this box is something that I think I might actually try to hang on my wall. Let's just take a closer look. I'll try not to talk through the box. So here is Rogue, and here is Pyro. And you can see that he's also in his flames there. So the artwork The artistry put into this was just really impressive to me. I tried to find out who the artist was and I wasn't able to. If anybody knows, let me know. But if you are an inbox collector, this is a really good one. I'm not, but I'm still gonna keep it because I think I'm gonna use that backdrop for some pictures that I'm gonna take. And I really appreciate the artwork. I honestly might hang it on my wall. So with all of that said, a lot said today, this is a fantastic 2-pack, you guys, and it bodes well for what's to come. I really want to see cinematic sculpts. So we're going to be seeing the Days of Future Past old Xavier and Logan together, and it'll be the Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart versions. So I'm really excited about that. There's another Xavier coming out with a Magneto, I think, and those are the movie versions. So we'll see some of these movie version sculpts coming out. They're going to get a little bit more direct in the commemoration. But for the first set to come out, for a figure that I don't have, I am over the moon, wicked excited about this set. I have no real complaints about either. The normal things that I would like to see on female characters just aren't there yet. It doesn't mean they won't be. And this Rogue is satisfying. So I couldn't be more happy to have her. With all of that out of the way, thank you guys for listening to this very long talk about these wonderful figures. I highly recommend that you get them. Check link in the description. I will be back on Monday with Scarlett and Wednesday with Duke, and we will be continuing on with all of the toys in my collection. Let me know how frequently you guys want to see these videos, and I will get through them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will be back on Monday with another one. Bye, friends!